Okay. Outside. That was wild. All right, let's do a couple of problems here. Basically, you're going to do kind of one of each type of the problems you're going to see in your homework. It's basically a product rule, quotient rule, some of the negative exponents, and then kind of mixing everything together, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to range in difficulty. So I'll start with kind of easy, and I'll kind of work my way up to the more challenging ones, which I consider, I'm going to put in air quotes, challenging. I don't think they're too bad today. I just picked a select few problems. I think you have 11 problems total. I think when I counted it, it's not very hard. It's just kind of one of those things. It's just nice to get some practice to see if you're doing it right. If you have questions, you can always ask. When assigned, it'll be due on Thursday this week. With the amount of problems I'm doing, and you'll have some time to work, I'll get it done today. I'm expecting you to get it done in class if you're actually kind of working on it. It's not too bad. But let's do a couple of problems to kind of fill you in and kind of see what you're up to. So again, we're in section P.2. This is based on laws of exponents. This will be the last day of the laws of exponents. Tomorrow we're going to move on to the next section. I believe the next section is the one that I'm kind of worried about. It goes with this one. It's based on radicals, square roots, cube roots, that type of stuff. I'm a little worried about that one. That's the one that from year to year to year I've seen like some people either they really know it or they really don't, and there's a huge gap between the two. So we're going to take some time on the next section, and then after that, all this stuff is kind of easy after that, and chapter P goes by, and we'll take a quiz here, or a test in a week or two. So it goes pretty quick. But let's jump right in. Let's talk about our few examples. So let's do a product rule. First, this is going to be my kind of easy one, just so you kind of know. This will look like a couple of your homework problems that you'll have, just so you're kind of aware of it. I'm going to kind of mix some stuff together here, kind of make it a little bit different than one that you saw yesterday, just because I think it's kind of important to see that. So here's my example I'd like you to try. 5x cubed times 3x to the negative 9th. A little product rule. Sometimes they'll put dots between them, sometimes they put parentheses. It's the same problem, even if it puts a parenthesis around the 3x to the negative 9th. Same thing, just multiply it, product. Somebody want to walk me through what's the first rule we should do? So please, first rule.
I times 5 times 3.
Okay, perfect, stop there. All right, so 5 times 3. I agree with that. The reason why, those are the only numbers you can actually multiply. That's it, that's all you can do. 5 times 3 was 15. All right, now somebody else now. What else do we got? So, somebody else that wants to finish that problem out with maybe the variable. What would the variable be?
Yeah, the exponents.
Yeah, the exponents, right? What do we get?
Negative 6.
Negative 6, sorry. That's the answer. Now, I know it's a negative. If you don't like to leave it there, you can move it to the bottom of the fraction. There is a fraction there, everything's over 1. This is over 1. So if you don't want to leave it there, you make this over 1 and then just move the x to the negative 6 to the bottom. So just the x to the 6 would go down. It would join the 1 that's down there. You don't need the 1. I'm just showing you the 1 is already down there. You don't need the 1. So if you just want to leave it like, this, I'm totally fine with that. That's the answer. Done. Can't do any more. Move on to the next one.
Can we leave it the negative 6?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. You're showing me that you know what you're doing. I don't mind either one. They're the same answer to me. I just want you to feel comfortable. You can display that you know the basic rule, that you knew that you were supposed to add the two together. Okay, questions on product rule. Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. No joke, like you're gonna have like 2 of those. Like they look like that. They're not even that hard. Let's move on to the next one. Let's do a quotient rule now. So now we're getting to a little bit more variables. I should say not difficult, just variables. There's just more of them. Let's see. Something like that. I think you're gonna have one of these, I think, where it's like, I don't know why, the book just picks problems where the variables all kind of match. It doesn't matter. I mean, one could have a variable on the top versus the bottom. It doesn't matter. The book tries to keep them balanced. I always find that kind of funny how they do that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so it'll be a little bit of time to kind of look it over. Basically, all they want you to do is simplify it. Cancel stuff out. Basically it's just subtracting. That's all it is. You're going to try to tell me, I've shown you kind of my shortcut for how I attempt it. As long as you're kind of, you know, kind of where to go from here. So. All right, so what do you think? So. C2. All right, I'll let you go here. What do you got?
Alright, so divide the 4 and the 20 by 4.
Boom, stop there. Okay, yeah, you're absolutely right. Divide the 4 and the 20 by 4. 1 and 5, okay? You got to simplify the numbers. Those are really the big part. If maybe they don't have anything in common, just leave the two numbers. You should do that first. You need to simplify the numbers. Negative numbers, doesn't matter. Just simplify them as normal, leave the negative sign. Negative sign can go top and bottom, it doesn't matter. You know, if that was a -4, you could put the negative sign on the top, you could leave it on the bottom. It doesn't matter. Negative signs doesn't matter if it's top or bottom. Okay, that was good? Somebody else now. No, Barry. Somebody else now. Barry. Somebody else. Please. Okay, yeah, so which one do you want? The y's you said? Yeah, I agree with that. These are going to completely cancel each other out. It's 1 and 1. They make 0 y's because they literally are the same variable. They're gone. So absolutely, I agree with that. So they're gone. I'm just going to leave it like that for right now. Somebody else now. Thank you. That was good. Somebody else. What else can we do? And somebody, please.
You can take an x away from the top.
Okay, yeah, because you're going to take away the 1 from the bottom, right? You're going to take away an x from the top. You're going to be left with 1. And the x is left up here. Yeah, we'll get rid of that negative sign. We don't need the negative sign. Just threw that in there. So yeah, so you're getting rid of 1 of each. The reason why, you get rid of the smaller of the two numbers. That was good. Somebody else now. Last one. Last variable. Please.
Take 3 z's away from each z.
Yeah, take 3 of them, right? Because that's the smaller the number. Take away 3, what are we left with? 2? And they're left on the bottom. That's the answer. Now we move on to the next problem after that, right? That's as far as you can go. It doesn't matter, you know, what strategy you use. Maybe you're doing it differently than me. I know I show my math very particular. It doesn't matter. Maybe that person just likes to always take the top minus the bottom. You know, you take the 2 minus the 1, or the 1 minus the 1, or the 3 minus the 5, and then you move them around later. Because that's the real math, right? That's the real way that most textbooks show you. You always take top variable minus bottom variable, and then you move it to where you need to go. I don't mind. I'm just showing you my shortcut. Take it or leave it, you know? But, is there any questions with the 2? Okay. All right, so up to this point, I can consider those simple, no problems. They're just kind of basic. The last type of problem you have, they just kind of throw you in the deep end. And, I mean, there's just this massive ramp in difficulty in the problems, which I consider like, you know, difficult, to put air quotes on it. Because like these were all like, that was pretty basic, straightforward. That's pretty simple, you just cancel. And then suddenly, you'll notice when you look at the book and you get past, I think it's like problem number 60 in the book. The problems just balloon in size, where there's variables everywhere, there's massive things going on, and there's variables and parentheses and negatives everywhere, and it's just like, there's no like middle ground. It was either you're doing something super like algebra 1-ish, algebra 2-ish, to just, you're gonna take a while to figure out what they're even telling you to do. So I just kind of picked 1 or 2 that I thought were kind of basic that, you know, you could easily kind of read through. So here's the example I think I picked. It was something very close to this, where it had a parenthesis, had a 3, let's see, -2. Let's go with a 12 down here. X to the -3, Y to the 4th, Z to the -10, and W to the 2nd. Yeah, I think that was just okay, it was something like this, where it was a fraction, right? There was a quotient rule in there, and then there was a parenthesis, and then there was a power on the outside. And I think I did one of these yesterday. All right, I think it was the last problem we talked about yesterday. And after this one, there was a few more later on, like down the road on this problem. I think this is around like number 60 in the book. There was one that was later on. It was like, there was like 2 of these side by side. So you had to like finish each one separately. And then once you had your answer, then you had to multiply the 2 together. And then inside each of the parentheses, there was more parentheses. It just balloons quick. So I didn't pick any of those massive things. If you want to look at them, you can go check them out if you want. I think they're in like the hundreds, I think, like 110s. They are just some huge problems. But when we look at this, there's a couple different ways. We talked about yesterday. You could simplify the inside first if you want. You know, cancel stuff out, move stuff around. You could do that. You could be the person that maybe you just want to distribute the 3 first. Didn't matter. There's a lot of different approaches here to this problem. Don't feel like there's only one way to do it. There's multiple. So, you know, you might have a different approach than somebody else, but your final answer will be the same, so it's fine. Just show something, like when you're especially going through the work, like maybe you're like showing me that type of stuff. You're crossing out things and kind of rewriting. You know, that's helpful so I can see kind of where you're coming from. So I can see kind of what mistakes or what things, like how you write stuff, the notation you use. That's the stuff I like to get used to, is like your handwriting, like how do you do it? How do you process the problem? So I'll give you guys kind of option. So I'll just go for the first volunteer, raise your hand. How do you want to start it? Okay, fire away. What do you guys want to do? Distribute?
Yeah, the 3, yeah.
Distribute 3? All right. We're going to distribute 3. That's what they chose. So we're going to distribute the 3 to everything. If you don't want to do that, it's fine. Maybe do it your own way. We'll come back and we'll see if we're at the same answer in the long run. We're going to distribute the 3. Now, it goes to everything, top and bottom. And it goes on every power that's sitting there. So we have a negative 2 to the 3rd. All right, notice I'm putting it in parentheses. Negative numbers, put them in parentheses. I'll talk about, there's one thing I need to discuss here in a second. X to the negative 3rd, we have to multiply that by a 3. So that's going to be x to the negative 9. Y to the 4th, we're going to put it to the 3rd, so that's y to the 12th. Remember, the rule is anytime you distribute, you always multiply. Even in Algebra 1, when you were taught to distribute for the first time, it's always multiplying. That's just my little rule in my head. That's how I always think of it. 12 to the 3rd. I didn't need to parenthesis on that one, but I put it there. Z to the negative 30, because again, I'm multiplying 3 and the negative 10. And then the W to the 6, because 2 and 3. So W to the 6. All right. Questions on the first step. Now again, if you did it differently, it's fine. Maybe you wanted to simplify first. It might make the numbers a lot easier. Because now I got to figure out what 12 to the 3rd is. That's 144 times 12. I'll have to do that in my head. All right. I'm going to keep going here. Keep going. Let's go to the top. So negative 2 to the 3rd power. So this is my question to you. This is what I was going to talk about earlier. Negative 2 to the 3rd. Will it stay negative or will it turn positive?
Negative.
Negative. Why?
Because negative 2 times negative 2 is positive times negative 2 is negative.
Yeah. It's an odd number of negative 2's. You're absolutely right. You have 3 negative 2's. That's an odd number of negatives. That will stay negative. Common sense that before you start typing it in calculators. Because I'll show you the example, my last example of the day, where the negative side could cancel if you have a positive power. So, or a positive, an even number, I should say, not a positive. So, negative 2 to the 3rd, we're going to get 8. Negative 8, I should say. Negative 8, because negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. X to the negative 9, that's going to go to the bottom. The y to the 12th is going to stay where it's at. Let's see, on the bottom, 12 to the 3rd. So, we have 144. It's 1,444 plus 144. So 1,584. Is that right? Somebody do a calculator.
1,728.
Oh, not even close. 1,728? Oh, because I had to double the 144 because I had to take it times 2. 1,728. I got to double the 144. So 1,720, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, and z to the negative 10, that goes up, and w to the second will stay on the bottom, or w to the 6. Oh, and that's 30. Sorry, 30. 30 went up, 12 stayed, 6 stayed, and the 9 went down. Yeah. All right, we're here. Are we done? No.
Simplify that.
Yeah. The 1,728 and the 8, they're gonna have an 8 in common. Almost a guarantee. So we're gonna have to divide them both by 8. And the negative sign, you can keep it on the top. It doesn't really matter. But I guarantee they're gonna have an 8 in common. So y to the 12th, z to the 30th. Let's see, that is a 2, carry a 1. That's a 1. That's a 4. 216.
Yeah.
So next to 9, w to the 6. All right. All right. All right. Questions. I miss anything other than the 1,220. Rookie mistake. Had the double 144. Okay, last thing. Now this is it's not even gonna be like a problem like that. Last, absolute last thing. And this is where if you have a calculator out, I'd like you to have it out. This is my absolute last problem of the day. I'm gonna make it super, super simple. Negative 4 to the 8th power. Negative 4 to the 8th. So if you have your little calculator, you should be probably using that little caret key, the exponent key. Maybe you have an X to the Y key on your calculator. Those are the buttons you should be using. A little caret key or X to the Y key. Those are the keys you're looking for. What are we going to get? Common sense before we start. Not like the actual answer, positive or negative. Positive, right? If you left the parenthesis on the negative 4. If you didn't use a parenthesis, some calculators will tell you it's negative. It depends. If it's written like this in the book, like this, your answer will be negative. Because they want you to put 4 to the 8th power, and then they want you to put a negative sign on the front of it after you're done. They want the opposite of that answer. If they want you to actually put it to the 8th power like that, the negative sign, like you said, will cancel out. Do you see the massive difference in problem there?
Yes.
You need to see that, because it will happen. Make sure it's in parentheses if you know you're putting it to the 8th power to everything. Maybe that was the distribution. That should be positive if it's written like this. So that should be a positive number. 64 times 64, what is that? Or sorry, not 64, 16 times 16, 256?
65,536.
Oh, wait, we're going to the 8th power. Say it again.
65,536.
536? Did I write that right? Wow, that is a huge number. I forgot it was 8. I was doing it to the 4. Oh, that's a big number. Positive, right? Because we had to cancel the negative sign. If the parentheses around it. If the parentheses wasn't there, it would be negative. Yeah, it's a big number. Just look at that. That's only to the 8th power, and we're already in like 5-digit numbers. That because you had 8 4s across the board. I was doing 4 in my head. So you have 8 4s across the room, across the board. That's a lot. And just common sense, you know if it's positive or negative in the end, that's a big deal. All right. The reason why I bring that up is that there's going to be 1 or 2 problems where you're going to have to do something like this, right? Where you have to distribute, and the power, let's say the power is an 8, and you're distributing the 8, maybe this was a negative 4, like that problem up there, where you're putting an 8 on a negative 4. And I know somebody's going to type it in wrong, where they won't put the parenthesis on it, and your calculator will keep telling you it's negative. Because yeah, if you type this in your calculator thinks you're giving it a negative number. Do the opposite of 4 to the 8th. But when you put it in parentheses, it knows it needs to cancel out the -4. So just common sense that before you start. Questions on that problem? Okay, you'll have about, what is this, 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so you can kind of work. I'm gonna turn you loose on this. Pay attention to the negative signs and whatnot. But here's your homework. It's gonna be due on Thursday. Now this will be probably the question of the day, is what's the assignment, when does it due, that type of thing. So if you're connected to Google Classroom, you don't need to answer it, but it's just gonna be there. I'm trying to do a question a day every now and then. So, all right, so page 28. Okay, so here's the numbers. We're doing 24, 28, 34, 35, 37, 41, 44, 57 through 59, and we're finishing with 62. And 62 is gonna look a lot like that thing right here, this one. Now, if you get real bored and you're in study hall and you kind of want to give yourself a real challenge, try the hundreds. Look at like 110 or somewhere in that ballpark, 104 to 110. There are some massive problems in those. Yes, ma'am. So, yeah, if you need to get technical, go do that. If you have your Chromebook, you can access the online. Go to my website, you can do that. So you don't have to log in, it kind of works. Yeah, there you go. Page 28, 24, 28, 34, 35, 37, 41, 44, 57 through 59, and number 62. It'll be due on Thursday.